Okay, so you know how we do things here on the deep dive. You send us something that's gotten you thinking, and then we kind of take it apart, see what's inside. Right?
Exactly. We look for those golden nuggets, the real aha moment. And, this time, you said it's a doozy.
Oh, yeah.
This YouTube video, Thinking is Electric, Knowing is Magnetic, from that Beyond the Veil channel.
Really gets into some deep stuff with Walter Russell.
Yeah. So to set the stage here, the video dives into this idea that reality is like fundamentally mind in motion. And everything we think of as like solid, the matter around us, it's actually at its core light.
Not just the light we see, but the source of everything, right? Like the building block of the universe.
Absolutely. It's a very different perspective than, the standard scientific.
So what we're going to try to do today is unpack this, see how it all fits together. What does it really mean to say that the universe is mind in motion?
Right. What are the implications if this idea that everything is light is really true?
So let's just jump right in. One of the first things that really struck me was this idea that matter, the stuff we think of as solid and real, might not actually exist in that way.
Right. It's almost like saying the physical world is an illusion, at least the way we normally think about it.
Yeah. Like we look at a table, we feel it, it seems solid, right? But the video is suggesting that's not the whole picture.
Exactly. The video, in Walter Russell's ideas, suggests that what we perceive as matter is actually this compressed light, held together by something they call the universal mind.
And when they talk about light, it's not like the light from a lamp, right?
Oh, no. This is talking about something much more fundamental. It's like the primary energy, the essence from which everything else arises.
So how does that even work? How does light become the things we see and touch?
Well, the video uses this really interesting phrase, compressed light held in tension by the unseen hands of universal mind.
Okay, that sounds pretty poetic, but what's the actual concept behind it?
I think a good way to visualize it is, like, imagine a spring. You compress that spring, right? You put all that energy into it. That's kind of like the light in this analogy. It's full of potential.
Oh, I'm with you.
And then it's held in that compressed state by something. Those unseen hands, the universal mind, is this intelligence that's actively shaping and holding everything together.
So matter, the things around us are like that compressed spring full of potential energy.
Exactly. And then energy, the kind we use every day, is like that spring being released, the force returning to its kind of infinite state.
And the video even links this to the universe expanding and contracting.
Right, like a giant cosmic breath. You have this compression, this expansion, a constant cycle of energy transformation.
Okay, so we've talked about light and this universal mind, but what about atoms, those tiny building blocks that we learned about in school?
Well, the video talks about atoms as standing waves. So imagine a wave in the ocean that seems to stay in one place, but it's still energy in motion. That's the basic idea.
So even at that tiny level, things aren't actually solid and still.
Not according to this perspective. It's all about vibration, this constant motion that we just don't perceive because our senses are...
So if we could see things differently, we wouldn't see separate objects. We'd see, what, like a sea of light?
Right, a continuous field of energy. Everything interconnected, constantly in motion.
That's pretty mind-blowing, right?
Yeah.
And this leads us to how we fit into all of this, the nature of consciousness and how we're connected to this light. And the video really gets personal here, and it tells the listener, you are not separate from this light.
Yeah, that's a powerful statement. It's saying we're not these isolated beings made of something different. We're part of this same fundamental stuff. We are light.
And it even says the same light that forms the stars is flowing through us right now.
Right, it's emphasizing this deep interconnectedness. We're not just observing the universe, we're woven into it, part of its very fabric.
And get this, the video says that our thoughts, our intentions, even our awareness, they radiate outward, affecting this field of creation.
So it's not just that we're made of this light, but our very thoughts and feelings are playing a role in shaping reality.
It's like we're not just receivers, we're also transmitters. And the video goes on to say that the biggest deception is believing in this idea of solid, independent things.
Right. It's saying our senses give us this limited view. We see boundaries and separation where at a deeper level, there's actually this unity, this continuous flow.
So, okay, if all this is true, how does creation actually happen? How does this mind in motion shape reality?
The video describes creation as a conscious act, this ongoing process where the universal mind, this cosmic intelligence, is actively shaping light into the forms we perceive.
It's not just that something happened a long time ago, it's happening now, constantly.
Right. It's like the universe is this giant thought in motion, always unfolding, always creating.
And the video calls light the language of creation.
Exactly. It's the medium through which thought becomes formed. It's how the potential of this universal mind is translated into the world we experience.
And they talk about light being polarized to create the material world.
Yeah, so imagine this pure unified light. Polarization is like splitting it, differentiating it to create the variety and the complexity we see around us.
Like positive and negative, light and dark, those kinds of opposites.
Exactly. Duality arising from unity. And the video makes it clear that these forms, the things we see, they're not permanent. They're like light spiraling through these cycles of compression and expansion, appearing, disappearing, constantly changing.
Nothing is truly fixed. It's all in flux.
Exactly. It's this dynamic dance of energy and form constantly evolving.
And they make this distinction that the universal mind isn't creating by like putting pieces together, like building with Legos. It's more about this polarization, this division and interaction within a unified.
Right. It's like everything is already there in that field of light. Creation is about shaping and differentiating that light into the forms we see.
Okay, so now we get to this idea of the law of rhythmic balanced interchange. The video says, all things must return to balance. Like, that's a fundamental rule of the universe.
Right. This is a big one. It's saying balance is essential. It's what keeps the universe functioning.
But balance here doesn't mean things are just still, right? It's more like this perfect exchange between opposites.
Exactly. It's like giving and receiving, that expansion and contraction we were talking about. It's a dynamic flow, like a dance.
And the moment that rhythm is broken, things start to fall apart.
That's the idea. Imbalance leads to destruction, to decay.
And the video gives all these examples from nature, right? Like galaxies, trees, ocean waves.
Yeah, it's pointing to these natural cycles, the changing seasons, our own breath, the constant interplay of forces that maintain this balance.
And it even suggests that this is why civilizations collapse, because they get out of balance.
Right. When societies pursue endless growth, taking without giving back, they eventually create the conditions for their own downfall.
And it applies to individuals too, right? Like taking without giving, always talking, never listening.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing those patterns in our own life. Are we in balance? Are we giving back as much as we take?
The video says the universe has this way of restoring balance, either gently or, well, not so gently.
Right. It can happen through increased awareness, making conscious changes. But if we resist, the correction can be more dramatic, even destructive.
And it points out all these perfect rhythms in the universe, like the orbits of planets, the structure of atoms. And the idea is modern society is kind of out of sync with that natural rhythm.
Yeah, with a constant drive for more, faster, bigger. It can create a lot of imbalance, a lot of stress.
But the video also says this law isn't just about fixing things when they go wrong. It's a guide for how to live.
Right. It's about aligning ourselves with those natural rhythms, finding that balance in our lives.
Now let's talk about polarity. The video says that electricity and magnetism are like the two fundamental forces that run the universe, the very foundation of creation.
Right, they're presented as the two sides of the coin, the essential duality behind everything.
It says electricity is like the force of action, expansion, going out.
And magnetism is the reaction, the contraction, pulling things back inward, restoring balance.
So they're not in conflict, they're working together.
Exactly. It's their interplay that creates motion, that gives us the experience of time. And the video says this electromagnetic process is happening everywhere, from tiny atoms to giant galaxies.
And even inside our bodies, right? It's how our nervous system works.
Yeah, it's presented as this universal principle, this fundamental dynamic that shapes everything.
And it's this balance between the two that keeps things stable, like why atoms don't fly apart, why planets stay in orbit.
Right. The video suggests that this electromagnetic tension is what's holding things together.
It's a different way of looking at it, right, than just saying it's gravity.
Yeah, it's a different perspective on what creates that stability, that order.
And the video contrasts this view with, the way science often looks for individual particles.
It's saying that approach can miss the interconnectedness, the unity of these forces.
It's like focusing on the trees and missing the forest.
Right. And the video goes even further, suggesting that there aren't actually any particles, just waves of energy held in place by this electromagnetic tension.
Wow. So it's not little bits of stuff, it's all energy.
That's the idea. Energy is fundamental. And it's not moving through space, the video says. It's space itself that's vibrating, that's alive with this energy.
Okay, so now we get to this idea of sensing man versus knowing man. The video calls this the greatest transformation humans can make.
It's about moving beyond just experiencing the world through our sense to a deeper understanding.
Like not just seeing the surface, but really understanding the nature of things.
Exactly. It's not just about gathering more facts. It's a shift in awareness, a way of perceiving reality.
The video says the knowing man can see beyond the illusions, perceive this universal mind.
It's about recognizing that connection, understanding that we're not separate from the universe, but part of it.
And it says, identifying too strongly with our physical body, with our senses, it actually blocks us from this deeper knowing.
It's like we get so focused on the physical world, on our individual experience, that we tune out this larger intelligence.
So how do we make that shift? How do we become knowing man?
The video talks about quieting the mind, stilling those thoughts. It's about becoming receptive to this deeper intelligence, allowing it to flow through us.
It's like getting out of our own way so we can tap into something bigger.
Right. And it suggests that this is where true breakthroughs come from, not just from our individual minds, but from this connection to the universal mind.
And it calls this cosmic consciousness.
The ability to consciously connect with this field of infinite knowledge, of pure awareness. It's like our potential is limitless.
Okay, so now we get to the power of thought. The video says, since reality is this mind in motion, controlling our thoughts is the greatest power we have.
Right. If consciousness shapes reality, then our thoughts are like the tools we use to create our world.
And it's not just thinking about things, it's about the energy of those thoughts, right?
Exactly. Our thoughts create vibrations, they influence the field around us. And the video says fear and negativity, they create more of the same.
While focused, positive thoughts have a much stronger creative power.
Right. It's like what we focus on, what we give our energy to, is what we tend to manifest in our lives.
And it even talks about the power of collective thought, how shared beliefs can shape the course of history.
Absolutely. The energy of a group of people, all focused on the same idea, can be incredibly powerful.
And the video keeps coming back to this idea the world isn't happening to us, it's happening through us. We're active participants in this creation.
We're not just puppets. We have the power to shape our reality, both individually and collectively.
And it ends with this really profound statement. We're not separate minds, but the universal mind expressing itself in human form, each of us a creator.
Wow. So it's not just that we're connected, but that we are fundamentally that universal mind.
Yeah, it's a pretty radical idea, right? But it makes you think.
It definitely does.
So, okay, we've covered a lot here, from matter being an illusion, to the power of thought, to this idea of becoming knowing man. Really big concepts.
Yeah. Definitely some things to ponder.
And for you, our listener, what stands out to you? What resonates? What challenges your current view of the world? Take some time to really think about these ideas, maybe even revisit the video.
Right. See how they fit into your own life, your own experiences.
And here's a final thought to leave you with. If your thoughts really are shaping reality, what kind of world are you choosing to create? Not just for yourself, but for everyone. It's something worth pondering.
Absolutely. Something to carry with you.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. It's been quite a journey.
It really has. Until next time.
Take care.